Well, hi everyone. I am Meera Raval, and I'm the founder of Meraki Power and your co-host for today's What Do You Solve episode. So, this is a podcast series, as you all know, in partnership with Climate Hive. And this show is all about amplifying the powerful climate stories and spotlighting the people behind all the real solutions on the ground. So, today I'm thrilled to be joined by Ronnie Ogwang from Tangaza Energy. He is a business development engineer and he is working on the intersection of renewable energy and artificial intelligence, currently based in Abu Dhabi. So, Ronnie, let's start with your journey. What was your aha moment? What inspired you to be in the space of energy and AI? And, what led you to Tangaza Energy?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mira, and thank you so much for everyone who's watching and listening. Pleasure for me to be hosted on that show, and I'm glad to be here. About the aha moment, honestly, I didn't think I had the aha moment. I think but mine is more of a journey that happened, and then it's that the fields just came to intersect. But to me, the driver has always been impact, wanting to create impact. And before coming into the energy sector, I think it's a brief history would actually help to bring us to where we are right now. Before jumping into the energy sector, immediately after university, I was a student researcher. Okay, so the graduate trainee researcher at an AI lab at my university. So I did a couple of AI projects, and I was assisting my professors and doctors on their AI research. That was around 2020 through 2021. And yeah, for a couple of reasons, I left and then I came into the energy sector. And that is with my co-director and we met and we said, let us start something in the solar energy world. So we started up, so the Tangaza was already existing as a business and we incorporated it as a company. And then we were doing residential installations. So for me, it was seeing the impact that energy can make in someone's life, someone who has no access to energy, a community that has been off grid, a community that is living off. I mean, I come from Uganda, where the grid is not available everywhere. So seeing that kind of impact it could create on a small household to give it light, to give it power in the sockets, I wanted to do more. So then the idea was how do we expand, how do we grow the organization beyond just providing residential solar solutions? So we wanted to scale and be able to do this at a community level, be able to do this at a country level with the utility scale solutions. So that is kind of the reason as to why Tangaza actually exists. And then how now does the AI come back? So because I had the background in AI, so I mean AI is a tool and it can be applied across so many sectors. So I was kept on thinking, how do I actually integrate AI into the work that we are doing? So in a nutshell, Tangaza, we offer, I'd like to call them three verticals. So you're looking at the sustainability, you're looking at the project development, and you're looking at the digital energy services that incorporates the AI use cases so far that we've been able to incorporate within our work. Yeah.
Right, right. Thank you for sharing that. That's an inspiring and amazing story. Um,
Yeah.
so so yeah, how did everything, started up in Abu Dhabi? Like you came from, you said you're from Uganda, and like how did that translate? Like what was that something that attracted you here in UAE to come and, get started with this?
So the attraction to UAE came from if you follow a lot of renewable energy news, you'll know that the UAE is actually doing quite a lot in that space,
Mm,
specifically solar, where you have the very big companies, Mazda, Amea Power. And it just so happens that this company is actually doing projects within my country. So Amea Power is
ah,
developing a 20 megawatt, and Mazda is doing a 150 megawatts. So when I saw that, what's the right word? I think I should say I was jealous of what they were doing. Yeah, and to me, they were doing the thing I wanted to do. The
Mm,
amount of impact that these plants can create, the value, the economic value that can be ignited by having this sort of energy. So I was jealous. I wanted to have this for myself.
mm,
So around 2023, the UAE was hosting COP28.
ah,
So I attended COP for a week, and it to me it gave me a chance to actually interact with a lot of these companies, a lot of these players because they had pavilions and they were exhibiting. So when I looked at the environment, I go back home and tell my directors. This is the place where we have to be if we want to do big climate business. So it came from that, looking at the impact they were creating and wanting to participate and be a part of it. And honestly, there's no better place than the UAE if you want to get a place to use a launch pad into
ah,
Africa. Yeah, so the UAE provides that convening power, provides that level of access to African countries. So
mm.
yeah, that is I think that should explain my the move to the UAE. Yeah.
Right, right. And every time you enter a new market, there's always, like issues and personal conflicts that you face. So would you like to share something about that? And also, not just UAE, do you plan to, expand your product and your business in the United States or, Europe? Is that something in the horizon for Tangaza?
Okay, so I'll start with the first one here. Moving into a new market, of course, presents its challenges. Yeah, so moving to the UAE and coming from Uganda, of course, that means you have to leave everyone you know behind, and now it can only
Mm,
be a virtual conversation. But also there is a cultural change that you have to go through, coming from a country that is tropical and average temperatures are about what 24, 23, almost all year round, and then you come into these countries that experience I would say extremes. So you have the summer temperatures are in 40 degrees, and then of course the winter is not so bad here, can get to about 18. So experiencing such, and then the food, and can also get a bit lonely doing work in a foreign country. But I think considering that my job is business development, so it involves me attending meetings, attending conferences. So I've kind of built a very solid network that I can rely on. So yeah, it presents the challenges. You how you don't no one knows you in the market, so you have to tell them what to do. Coming from Africa is not easy to convince people to actually work with you who are not coming from Africa. So the expectations I think are quite low from the continent, but I mean we're here, and ours is to challenge the status quo and show people that we can actually deliver. We know that technology, we know what is happening within the space, and we can really deliver. I meet quite a lot of people who meet you and you have a conversation and they discover, oh, you're actually technically grounded. And then they start asking you, where did you study from? I'm like, I studied all my education in Africa. Like, oh, you're sure? So those are kind of the things that are a few challenges that we face here and there. But I mean, we keep pushing. Like I've said, to me, the motivation is really impact, and the UAE is giving it to me. In terms of the second question about whether we want to expand, like I've said, I think one of the unique propositions that the UAE offers you is the convening power. I mean, there are so many conferences and events that happen in the UAE, so it's kind of the one place that you find all countries convening, and mostly all in the climate space. You have events. In January, we had the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. We just concluded the Middle East Energy Expo, and these are events that pull in so many people. You have the business community, you have governments, you have policymakers, you have manufacturers. So you're able to get all that in the UAE, and then that helps you to actually access other markets. So right now we do have a pipeline of projects going on in Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and this has been because we're in the UAE, so we're able to meet so many people. And then the people who come from Africa actually are happy to know, oh, you're actually from Africa. They're happy because it's easier to connect. In terms of whether we are willing to expand into markets that are beyond Africa, well, we are happy to. Like I've told you, to me, the motivation is impact. So if I can extend this impact anywhere else, Europe, America, I know the product offerings in each of these countries is going to be different. It may not be necessarily energy access, but maybe you want to offer a sustainability solution. You want to do the I didn't talk about one of the solutions we offer is removal of greenhouse gases. So far it's NOx. We have a partner we are working together with to implement the NOx solutions. So this is what the more developed economies, maybe what will be more appealing to them will be the NOx solutions rather than the energy access because they already have quite a very good percentage, if not 100% energy access. And to them, it's a different product that you're selling to them. Maybe they're interested in the digital energy services that we are offering. So, yeah, so us creating all those offerings is to be appealing to a wider market than just the African market that whose main problem is energy access. Yeah.
Can you share with us any like real life impact stories that you have been a part of? And if you can, like, it can be something that was super successful, or it can be something that you learned something from. So we would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a story I shared, must have shared it on my LinkedIn probably early last year. And it was an island in my country. So it's an island, so it has been off-gridded since the country started because for it to access power, they have to run a marine cable. And I think doing the cost benefit analysis was not so good for the utility. So what government did is to allow people to set up mini grids. So I happened to be a part of this project. It wasn't directly under us. There was another party that was implementing. It's called Busi Island, but I was in touch with the engineers who were doing the implementation and also offered some technical assistance. And to me, I saw how, so when we attended the launch and they were commissioning the plant, I could see how the island transformed the commissioning of what we would call a very small installation. It was about 400 kilowatts of a solar plant and about 1 megawatt hour of energy storage. But what happened is now schools you're going to have the schools that were there and could only teach students during daytime. Now they can extend and students can access lighting during the night. You have a night economy that has not been existing because you don't have any street lighting. The town centers are going to be closed by 6, 7 p.m. And now you have light in the trading center. You have a new range of businesses. I mean, you're going to attract the carpentry, you're going to attract welding business, you're going to attract the island grows a lot of coffee, so you're going to introduce a lot of coffee processing and value addition that is going to happen. So with just that simple, what we would call simple, because I mean, and that technically it's not very demanding, and even financially, it's not crazy amounts of money that cannot be raised. If I remember, the budget must have been about 3 million USD, and you could see the impact that this 3 million US dollars was creating on the entire island. Lives were going to be transformed immediately. The price of land on the island spiked. New resorts were coming to set up. Why? Because now there is access to reliable power, which is cheaper to pay the energy bills than to run your own generator. So to me, that had a very profound effect on me to realize how much difference such a small installation can actually create in the lives of people. Yeah.
That is so amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah.
that's
It's
so
one of
cool.
those really moments I look at and I'm like, yeah, I think I shouldn't stop what I'm doing. I should push as much as I
Of
can.
course.
I mean, just imagine Dubai with its lights and you switch off the lights.
Mm,
Okay, in December, it's unimaginable, but imagine Dubai dark, a dark Dubai.
ooh,
You don't know how that would look like.
I can't imagine
Imagine you
that.
not having
No.
like this wall. Yeah, so it hurts that there are communities that are still
Of
living in
course.
this kind of life where you don't have the lights on. So that kind of impact is what keeps us going. Yeah,
Mm, right. Yeah, that's such an amazing story. Thank you again. So
yeah, pleasure.
when we talk about all these projects, and do you see any disconnect between, the energy solution, the innovation, and then uh, when it translates to actual real life applications in the regions that you work with? It can be like storytelling or just getting your voice out to people. Do you see any challenges that you would like to highlight?
Or did I get the question right? The disconnect.
Yeah, this like
What would,
disconnect between, the energy innovation and the solutions that you offer, and then when
yeah,
you go to, yeah, when you go to actually implement them, when
yeah.
those plans actually needs to be in action, do you see a disconnect between those two?
Or okay, so the disconnect would be from my perspective. One of the major disconnects we have is the capital allocation, I should say. You have, because to implement most of these projects, you're going to have to, as a project developer, you'll have to raise finances to fund these projects in these regions where you want to put them, and then people pay over time. So getting that financing is actually not as easy, despite the fact that there are so many climate funds that have been set up. So you hear so many billions that are being committed during the COPs. The UAE itself has climate funds that it has set up. I know about the Global Climate Finance Center, initiatives like Altera, and there is so much money that's being talked about, but access to it has been is a bit hard. Maybe I've just not yet cracked it. But if one of the viewers out there knows how to crack this and we can collaborate, I'll be happy to do that. So if this capital allocation is actually figured out, then it actually makes the whole implementation of these projects easier because there are projects and they're actually bankable, but access to the initial capital has been a bit hard. In terms of sustainability, there are people who still look at sustainability as what being too leftist, if I should say. Yeah, so there is that disconnect from when you go to people and you're telling them about sustainability, about climate impact that you can actually create. A couple of people look at it as these are the activists, but looking at it from an economic sense, and it's what I want to inform your viewers that it's cheaper to actually go be more sustainable. Back then, when I'll use solar because it's where I have experience, when solar technologies were more expensive. But right now, solar is actually probably the cheapest energy source that you can get. And it's also decentralized. So you go to these industries and telling them, okay, by you reducing your emissions, by you using these NOx technologies, you're actually going to take out these dangerous gases. And an example of like NOx, even if you're not a climate change activist, NOx has a direct impact on your health. So if you love your health, this is something you should be willing to take on. If I come and I generate an audit report for you and I'm showing you need to be more energy efficient. You may not be a fan of renewables, but by you being more efficient, that means you're going to have to spend less fuel if you're running on generators. You're going to reduce a strain on the grid. So I would, if in terms of the disconnect, it will be those two. One is the capital allocation, the people who have the uh, capital, and then where this capital has to be allocated for projects. And then on the sustainability side of things, is it has been it's been the perspective of people. Really, people are not knowledgeable enough to know the value that sustainability gives them. The last one, maybe on the digital solutions, a lot of this is actually new. You have new AI use cases. I'll talk about AI for health and safety. And this is a solution that we have built in collaboration with some partners. And what it does simply is give us your health and safety observations. We'll run them through our analytics engine, and then it will give you the better results than what your health organization, and you give them this. They kind of look at it as, okay, if I'm the health and safety manager or officer, I'm going to lose my job to this AI solution. Yet what we are doing is augmentation. So there's a lot of change management that needs to happen for people to embrace these digital technologies. Yeah. So I think across my work, that's where I see that disconnect. Under project development, it's capital. Sustainability would be knowledge, and then under digital energy solutions, that has to be around change management, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
I hope
agree.
I hope I answered
No,
the
you did.
question
Thank you.
well.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's just that it's like so much that people still need to talk about, and that the stories and the solutions needs to come to light. So I appreciate you sharing, what you know. And I'm curious about digital clean energy solutions or digital solar solutions, if I might say. What do you think the future looks like with it? When we think about,
Uh, okay. Looking at, yeah, I think to me it's really an integration of a new technology into the old way we've been doing things.
mm,
If you look at, and still I'll come back to the UAE that has been very proactive in incorporating emerging technologies within its operations. So AI, there's an AI ministry. If you look at the big energy companies like ADNOC, they are strongly incorporating AI across their organization. So to me, looking at that, it was how do we now get something similar within the renewable energy space? So, and it's going to be a couple of use cases. A lot of the technology is still new. I mean, we've been interacting with LLMs maybe for about the last 2 or 3 years, coming to 3 years since the release of ChatGPT. So a lot of these technologies are new. And
yeah.
so, of course, there's always that bit of resistance that happens. But how I look at it is that eventually it is going to take over the every aspect of human life. So from
Mm,
healthcare, transportation, energy. So it's so if we don't do it, someone else will do it. That's what I always tell people.
right.
And if you don't incorporate it within your organization, more efficient, someone else is going to do it. Your competitor will do it. And if they incorporate, say, the agentic solutions within their organization, you have a workforce of AI that's available 24/7, will not ask for leave, will not fall sick, will not get tired.
Mm,
So that gives you a competitive edge over the people who are not incorporating this. So to me, that's how I'm looking at it. In terms of use cases, yes, use cases are still a challenge. People will talk about AI and there's no practical use cases for some of the things. But to me, how I look at it is it's a spectrum. Some people we have people on either end of the spectrum. Some saying no, AI cannot do this, and some saying AI can do everything that you're doing. But
mm,
I would rather look at it as a spectrum. That what if we have a human on one side and then we have AI on the other. These two need to work together so that
right.
the two ends of the spectrum are, yes, are kind of coming together. You have AI augmenting your capabilities. I mean, for anyone whose work involves writing, you appreciate a lot how AI generated content can actually help you a lot in your work. Doesn't mean you're going to submit 100% AI content, but what AI generates in addition to what you have saves you a lot of time. So we want to be more efficient as organizations, as people. So how I look at it is it's going to be applied across every every facet of life and sector. So yeah, the energy sector is just one of them, and so it's time for us to embrace this. Yeah.
Right. So what's next for Tangaza Energy, and what's next for you personally when it comes to the energy sector?
So what's next for me? Going back to where I got some motivation, seeing what the bigger companies were doing. I think for me, it's really to position myself. and attract one talent because you need people to be able to do these kinds of projects. But also you want to attract the capital. Yeah, and it's one of the things I'm really working on to position myself really, start attracting money as small as possible and grow up till you can attract the big ticket investments. And really, what these investments are supposed to do is we are supposed to channel them into actual projects. One of the areas that constantly people talk about, Africa is receiving a less proportion of this renewable energy investment than it's supposed to be, and yet it's a continent where the rate of population growth is much much higher, and a lot of it is has no access to energy. So we want to be that. Company that people will trust and say, okay, if we want to develop projects within Africa, and yes, I know the bigger players have come into Africa, but most of them are playing within Egypt and South Africa.
Right.
You have kind of the mid African countries left out, minus South Africa and Egypt. So we want to be that company that someone can confidently trust with their money to say, okay, if I put my money in these guys, they can actually go ahead and implement these kinds of projects. So we want to see ourselves implementing that 10, 20 megawatts, 50, 100, and I don't whatever that we can implement, and that is for solar. But I also understand there are new renewable energy technologies that we want to incorporate within our offerings. Hydrogen has come up, so these are all, and it's always building strategic relationships. So as a BD engineer, my job is to build strategic relationships. If I know a technology provider in hydrogen, and I know, okay, if I have these guys and they can be a good EPC, and then I just need to convince the investor to get money to us, and then we implement these kinds of projects. So that's kind of the journey that we are trying to walk, still create impact in these places. In terms of me as a person, well, I should say my journey is linked very closely with what Tangaza does because it's what I do. I do this because I love it, and for me, I want to see a lot of infusion of emerging technologies within the energy industry. A lot of the project development, it's nothing new. It's something that has been done before. It's already being done. You're just spreading it across, but there is nothing novice that you're introducing. So to me, what I would love to see is how do we bring these emerging technologies and maybe to talk about them. One of them that we're looking at is AI, which I've talked about. So far, we have a use case, AI in health and safety. And this cuts across, it's not limited to the renewable energy space, cuts across industries and process automation. We're also looking at, we have been putting together a team to implement critical infrastructure inspections using robotics and drones, and then yeah, and this came from really a motivation of, you see, energy. And as much as we love it, it's actually very dangerous.
Mm.
Electricity is dangerous from the generation plants, could be hydro, could be solar, to the
Yeah.
substations, and then to the power lines. It's this infrastructure is really dangerous if anything goes wrong. So we've been thinking, okay, how do we innovatively solve some of the challenges that are here? How do we monitor better? When you monitor better, you can simulate this infrastructure. You can see if there are any defects, how fast they are degrading. I mean, you don't want to imagine a dam in my country. Almost 90% of the energy is generated from hydro dams. You don't want to imagine a dam busting because there are flaws in the structures, and it went unnoticed because the catastrophe that would arise from that is you don't want to think about it. You don't want to have a wind turbine falling on you get. So that's those are things we've been thinking about and trying to see, okay, if we have this knowledge in digital technologies, in autonomous systems, in robotics, in AI, how do we bring that knowledge together to see how we apply it to the sector that we love most? So I think for me, that is the journey that I want to walk because it introduces something new that is not everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. And, what would be your message to everyone who's listening to this episode right now? What would you like to say to them?
Uh, Okay, that's a bit hard. It's a very diverse group. But for me, wherever you can, I still want to go back to my motivation, which is impact. All
Mm,
of us we should strive to create impact. I mean, what you're doing here creates impact. Someone's going to hear my story that otherwise without you wouldn't have been heard. So you're creating impact. And if they're interested to collaborate with me, I am very available. But the message is it's a message of sustainability to become more sustainable as human beings. Whether we believe in climate change or not, it's a cheaper way to go. Everyone loves to save money. So if you do love to save money or you want to cut down your costs, there is no better way to go than being more sustainable. Second is we need to strive to increase access. This is listed among the SDGs, where everyone deserves a better quality of life, and you
mm,
cannot have a better quality of life without energy, without electricity, because it's what does it. So in what field you're in whatever you're doing, if it can help increase you and you impacting lives, that's very important. The last one is we need to embrace the emerging technologies because they are here and they're here to be used. They are tools that make our lives easier. The same way these applications we use a lot and we take for granted. Microsoft Word saved us from typewriters,
true.
and I don't know so many other way we were doing things manually. We have to collaborate. Uh, Doing so many things, people ask me, "How are you able to to pull all that in together?" But to me, it's a collaboration. Find someone doing something. If I want to incorporate it, how would we work together? So we need to build this collaborative spirit that if you're doing something, don't do it in isolation. Find someone else you can partner with. Maybe they have access to a market that you don't have. Maybe they have access to capital. Maybe they have access to a skill set that you don't have. But when you come together, you're able to do greater things. The message out there is from all these I've told you, and I'm very available for collaborations. You can reach out to me. I think that channel is LinkedIn. I'm very available, active. So, and let us create impact in all these sectors we've talked about. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much, Ronnie, and thank you so much for your time today to share your journey and share your story. It was really, really inspiring to talk to you.